I'm curious to know if when you had these friendships before and then after you got pregnant with me, did you see either a drop off in your friendships or that certain friendships changed?
I have had to reevaluate how I view friendship these days.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mother-Daughter Mixtape, where we talk everything love, life, and lessons learned along the way. My name is Jada.
And my name is Charmaine.
And welcome to our podcast. In today's episode, we are talking about friendships and how they have morphed throughout our lives. I mean, you being my mother, I am curious to know how your friendships and relationships have changed from, you being my age up until now. And what friendship means to you now, and if that's changed over time and things like that. What kind of qualities you're looking for in a friend as you've gotten older and things like that. And also just kind of share my perspective as a 20-something who also really values friendships and has had a good amount of them. So, looking forward to this episode. Any input before we get started?
No, I'm just ready to jump in.
Okay.
So grab a lemon drop, get comfy, and let's hit play on today's episode.
Boom. Look at you actually doing it correctly.
Only because I was already chastised before I even got a chance to do it.
We about 15 episodes in. You got to know how to do it by now.
Listen.
I know I did most of it, but it's like, you got to be there.
Anywho,
let's check in. How are you feeling?
I am feeling good. I'm feeling really good. So, of course, a couple of weeks ago, we were on vacation and that did a world of good for me.
Love that for you.
I really needed that, and I needed the time away, the downtime specifically. So first and foremost, thank you for not dragging me through the streets of the Bahamas.
Listen, because I almost did. When we got off that boat and I saw Atlantis.
Oh, my goodness.
When we were getting off the boat, I was like...
Not today. We'll have another opportunity, but not today. But no, I'm feeling good. How about you?
Yeah, I was going to say before I talk about myself real quick that the next time we go to the Bahamas should be to actually stay in the Bahamas or like go and stay in Atlantis.
I could see that. I've actually never stayed in the Bahamas. I think I've only cruised there, but I've been cruising there for over 20 years. Like the first time was way back when. But yeah, I would love to go and stay.
Yeah, because one of my friends who actually shares a birthday with me, which, by the way, my birthday is, by the time this episode drops, it'll be my birthday. So y'all can give me a quick happy birthday in the comments.
Yeah, go ahead and let's go ahead and shout her out now. It's coming up in less than 7 days. So happy early birthday to you.
Like I said, by the time this video drops, it'll be, if this video drops on time.
It will.
Which it will.
Let's go
Wednesday, May 14th. Okay, it'll be my birthday. Yes. But yeah, one of my friends was, she saw that we were in the Bahamas and stuff, and I had said that, oh my gosh, I would love to visit Atlantis. And then she was like, oh yeah, we stayed in Atlantis, and she sent me like these pictures and videos, and I'm like, it's beautiful.
I've been there, like you could do tours there and stuff, but to actually stay, I haven't done that yet.
Okay, yeah. I would love to do that at some point. But quick check-in for me.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. So last week I actually got laid off from my job, unfortunately. So I am just navigating that right now and just honestly just enjoying the time off. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, I feel like you're navigating that fairly well because that is a major life event. And it can definitely take you through some emotions.
Oh, trust me, I've been through them all.
Yeah.
I've been through the sadness. I've been through the anger and the resentment and things like that. But I also have had the emotions of just, like I said, being grateful for being able to have downtime, because even when we went on vacation, it didn't, to me at least, didn't really feel like a vacation because we were still working on the podcast and my mind just doesn't power off completely when it comes to stuff like that. So now I really feel like I'm on a vacation right now because I don't have to work throughout the day and stuff. Like, I just have more time to myself to really just pour back into myself and get back to like hobbies like reading and, you know, just really relax. So, you know, like I said, I'm grateful for the time off. So.
And you have a village, so there's no worries about, you know, am I going to be okay? I've told you from the moment you called me, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, and I know it's, you know, I've been there. I've been laid off before many years ago. And yeah, it definitely takes you through some emotions and all the things that you named. So I think you're handling it beautifully.
Thank you.
And
I'm trying.
Greater things are coming.
Greater things are coming. I do believe that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not to, you know, settle on that or like, you know, sit on that for too long. But other than that, doing good. And I'm happy to be here. And I guess I will say today is Mother's Day. So like I said, happy to just be here with you, celebrate you. And, you know, I am grateful for you as a mother and all that you've done. So it's nice to be sitting here and have my mom here while we're doing a podcast and having conversations.
Yeah, so. I think it's actually, you know, one of those moments where, okay, I'm grateful, of course, that you're here. And like I said, if you watched our story as we were filming this, she just brought me flowers and chocolate covered strawberries and a cute little card from her and her cat.
Me and Echo appreciate our mother and Gammy. That's what he calls her, his Gammy.
So I'm very appreciative, and thank you. I really do appreciate it, and I love you.
I love you too, of course. If you guys also want to give out any shout outs or anything to any mothers or special women in your lives, please do in the comments. So let's jump into today's conversation. Let's get it. So like I previously mentioned, today's conversation is basically talking about friendships. And one of the main things that really piqued my interest in having this conversation is that me and you are very alike in the way that we are both very low maintenance people when it comes to our friendships.
Yes.
Like, I don't need a whole lot when it comes to a friend. I just want someone who we can laugh, we can have good conversation, we can go out and, you know, have a good time and things like that. But it doesn't have to be that we talk every day.
Right.
We don't have to go out every single weekend.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main things, like I said, that really struck me to be like, we should talk about this on the pod.
Yeah, because I think, you know, and coming from, you know, a little bit more experience and, you know, longevity with, you know, different friendships and whatnot, I think it definitely has morphed over the years in terms of like when I was more your age. I would say my friends and I were, I don't want to say more engaged because I don't feel like that's the right way to describe it, but we were just kind of probably more present physically present with one another.
Yeah.
So I have never been the type of person I'm not a phone person, so I'm not going to call you every day. So that's always been the case for me. That didn't, you know, change over the years. I've always been like that. However, but we would be just out more often and, you know, doing things. And, you know, I partied hard when I was your age. So we were out almost every weekend and partying and just having a good time. And I wasn't traveling as much back then because I didn't have it like that back then. But even then, you know, traveling a little here and there and just enjoying one another's company. Now, when I was your age, I also had you. So, you know, I had this toddler, you know, and you kind of tend to, I guess, formulate friendships with like-minded people. So, you know, young moms and, you know, so we would have play dates and, you know, things like that. So, but yeah, now I am definitely more low maintenance. I feel like I've always been low maintenance because, again, you don't have to call me every day. I'm certainly not going to call you every day or every week. It might not even be once a month. But you know that if anything, at the drop of a hat, if you need something, you know you can call me. Like, and I would hope that my friends now know that if they need something, they can call me, text me, what have you, without feeling like, oh, you only call me, you want something, you know, so.
I'm curious to know if when you had these friendships before and then after you got pregnant with me, did you see either a drop off in your friendships or that certain friendships changed? Because I've heard, at least from, people my age, where they feel like once they have kids, like you said, they start to find people who are in the same, I won't say the same boat in a negative way, but,
yeah, sure.
People who also have, like you said, toddlers and people, that have kids around the same age as theirs, but they notice that their friendships with those friends that don't have kids, they don't.
I don't think so. At least I don't feel like I experienced that. When I had you, we were living in Florida, in Orlando, Florida at the time, and I didn't really know much of anyone there. I moved there straight out of college, and of course, I knew no one. So everyone that I met there, they were new friends. Now, I still had, at the time, my friends back home or friends from college, and we would stay in touch. But, back then, I don't even know, we had cell phones, but they weren't as widely available, I guess, if you will. So we were using things like instant messenger to keep in touch and, things like that. So, there really wouldn't have been, we're calling all the time or texting, texting wasn't even a thing back then. So I just think with the times that were, back then, you just kind of like, I would go home way more often than, because at that time, I had the liberty to travel home because of the package that I got when I got hired. They paid for you to go home like 4 times a year or for you to travel somewhere. And I always went home.
Bring back jobs that accommodate you in that way.
Listen, those sign-on bonuses back then were like a thing. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, I don't really feel like I had to morph in terms of the types of friends. Like I didn't specifically seek out friends that had kids or, it just naturally and organically happened.
Okay. But
I also don't feel like the friends that I already had that they felt some type of way because, now I'm a mom and, they didn't have kids yet. They were just supportive and, so we still remained friends and those friendships continued at that time.
Okay. And you didn't have trouble, I guess, balancing that? I mean, like you said, if those friends were like when you moved back to North Carolina, because at one point you did move back to North Carolina after you had me. Did you find that, those friendships still remained the same, I guess, as far as like still going out and, things like that?
I mean, in some sense, probably not as much because, again, I had a baby, so I'm not going out for sure. So I didn't go out as much, but I felt like if I wanted to, or if, there were things going on that, I could still hang out with them or, we're hanging out together, I guess. But I didn't feel like things had really changed so much in terms of just because I had a baby, that wasn't, if anything changed, it certainly wasn't because of that is what I'm saying.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And now that you are at your age, do you feel like what you look for in a friend is any different? Like what kind of characteristics are you looking for in your friendships?
So it's interesting that you say that. I have had to reevaluate how I view friendship these days. And I think that really became a part of how things kind of changed during COVID, quite honestly. So I would say within the last 5 years or so, and really I'll say probably 5 to 10 years, because I've gone through some friendships that, aren't around anymore. And I tend to look inward. I mean, I look at the situation or whatever happened that caused us not to be friends or not to be as cool as we were. But then I also take an introspective look at myself to say, okay, what could I have done different? Did I do something wrong? Just whatever that process is. And certainly there are some things within myself that I'm like, okay, I can kind of see how X, Y, and Z played out. I will also say that during COVID was almost, I don't want to call it a smack in the face, but it was definitely eye-opening for me in that I'm already an introvert. So when COVID first happened, when it was like, okay, we have to quarantine and stay home, I'm like, oh, nothing changes for me. Like, that's just my MO anyway. But then I realized afterwards, because we had just moved back to North Carolina in 2019. COVID happened in 2020. I was traveling for work during that time, so I wasn't in the office. Like, I was traveling. I was working in California, on the West Coast. So I'm traveling back and forth to the West Coast every other week. So one, I'm tired when I'm home, so I'm not hanging out. And then COVID happens and nobody's out. And again, I'm not the phone person. I'm not going to call you every day. I'm not going to text you every day. So it certainly affected some of my friendships to where I started to realize, oh, maybe we aren't as close as I thought we were. And I really had to just take a step back, and it was a stinger for me. So I think now when I'm looking at people that I meet, especially females, in terms of like thinking about friendships and how close you're going to be to someone, I have one best friend. That's you. That term for me is a very heavy moniker to put on someone, because when I've called people my best friend, like in previous, I don't even speak to some of those people anymore. And it kind of hurts, for sure. But it also made me realize how I view a best friend versus how other people might view a best friend. I am big on loyalty.
Yeah.
And not to say that they were necessarily disloyal, but my level of loyalty doesn't always seem to match others. So that was where I had to like look inward to see, okay, how do I view friendship versus how others view friendship? And not to say that one way is right or wrong. It's just different.
And yeah, you want friends that align with who you are. And I think too that we all know that we grow and change.
Sure.
And with growth and change, you know, people grow and change on both sides of the spectrum.
And sometimes you outgrow.
Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't mean that you feel like you're better.
Right.
Like, I tend to want to explain when I say outgrow, because people can take that in a negative connotation to mean that, oh, I've outgrown you, I'm better than you. That's not what it means.
Yeah.
We've just grown in different directions.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We're all on different paths in lives, and we all know that, you know, some people are here for a season, a reason,
or a lifetime.
A lifetime, exactly. So, yeah, I get that. I also, when you spoke about like COVID and things like that, something came to mind for me. Do you feel like there was anything that you could have done better? And I don't want to say it in like a, you know, you could have, you know, whatever.
Sure.
But even as someone who, you know, like you said, you're not someone who really talks on the phone and texts every day and things like that, you know, especially during COVID, it's like, that's really all you can do during that time. So do you feel like you could have been the person to kind of, you know, reach out a little more and things like that?
Possibly, but it's always a two-way street.
Right, for sure.
You know, so sometimes I feel like I've reached out to people and they'll respond, but then I'm the only one reaching out.
Right.
And it's going to take maybe twice at the most. And then I'm going to realize, oh, okay, the level of effort is not the same. So I'm going to pull back. And if I pull back and you still aren't reaching out, then, I mean, it's okay. And not everyone is meant to just, you know, to be like this with you all the time. And I'm fine with that. And I understand that. But I do think that sometimes when you are kind of thinking back on like, oh man, we had such a good time when we did this, and you know, you start having these memories and things like that, you can get a little sad because it's like, you know, you cherish, or at least for me, I cherish when I'm having a good time with my friends. Like, so now when I'm hanging out with my friends, I tend to, I just really enjoy those times.
Be a bit more present.
Exactly. And not, you know, not everyone really understands the gravity of that. So I tend to internalize that a lot. But I think that, like I said, when I'm looking for friends now, or, you know, being with friends that I already have, I just try to, like you said, just try to be more present and, you know, be in the moment versus thinking what could potentially happen down the road, or, you know, things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that in every aspect, whether it's dating, family, friends.
Dating is hard.
That. Yeah, it is hard.
Because, I mean, I know This ain't about dating I know, today. But can I just say this real quick? Yeah. I mean, just like from a dating perspective, I think it's hard because you're dating for
the future.
Yeah. You know, so be in the moment, but you're dating for a purpose.
Right.
Or at least we are.
Yeah. So you want to be sure that you can see a future with somebody. Yeah. For sure. But I can understand your perspective of internalizing, you know, people's actions and things like that, because I've done it before myself too. Yeah. And I think only recently have I really come to realize that, you know, people are all on their own path, and people are going to live their lives how they want to. Yeah. And you have to give people the free will to do so. Yeah. I feel like once that perspective really, you know, came to me of letting people live their lives how they want to, it's like you kind of just realize that everything's not about you. People are 9 times out of 10 thinking about themselves and the way their lives are going rather than, you know,
and not in a selfish way.
Right. Like life is literally so hard. Like, please, like everybody literally has just things going on. Yeah. So that was something that I really had to learn. And I'm hoping that my friends can also understand that from my perspective, because like you said, I'm not someone who's going to reach out very often. And it's not intentional that I don't want to, you know, check in on my friends and know that they're doing well. But especially as someone who has ADHD, I cannot. And I also have a lot of friends. Yeah. And I can genuinely say I have a lot of friends, like not acquaintances or people that I really, you know, just kind of know. Yeah. I have a lot of friends. So it's
and they're not all in the same friend group, right? Exactly. So I think that plays into it as well. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you, I don't want to say juggle, but you know, how you can manage different friend groups?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. I can't even lie to you, because it's like you want to, like, even for my birthday, for example, if I wanted to, you know, go out of town or like have a dinner or something like that, I want all of my friends to be there because it's like these are all people that I love and I know they love me and they want to celebrate me and things like that. Yeah. But it sometimes can get difficult because, you know, some people say you can't always mix your friend groups and things like that. And it's like, I think you spoke on this on one of the previous episodes of just knowing, you know, what kind of friends you have and knowing, you know, the kind of purpose that they serve in your life and in your friendships and things like that. Yeah. So if I could be honest, I don't have the advice or the best, you know, anything to say like, oh, this is the way to juggle friendships. I just think that, like you said, it just goes back to being more present. And if you need to be somebody that writes down or puts in your reminder app to check in with this friend every 2 weeks and then check in with this friend every so often or whatever, once a month or whatever that looks like for you, then do that. But again, as someone who has ADHD, has a lot of friends, wants to do any and everything with their life and, you know, have all these different experiences, I do find it hard to juggle that.
Interesting. So what would you say? Okay, so you mentioned like doing reminders to check in on people. How do you feel about friends that need to be checked in on or they feel neglected?
That's a slippery slope as well. I've had friends that felt like I just, you know, haven't shown up for them in the way that they would like for me to. And I just think it just boils down to having a conversation and knowing what kind of friend you have and the kind of friend that your friend needs you to be. And you determine if that's something that you can do or not. Yeah. I mean, again, it just goes back to giving everybody the opportunity to live their own life on their own free will, I feel like. And again, I just really think that once I came to that perspective, it helps to not internalize when a friend doesn't check on you or, you know, because it's just like everybody has so much going on.
Yeah. And, you know, you see this thing like on social media all the time, like check on your strong friends. Because we're typically, I say we as if, you know, and I'm a strong friend.
I am too.
But no, you know, we're typically the ones who, you know, we're not going to let people know or we're not shouting out like, oh, I'm going through this tough time. I mean, you just talked about, you know, unfortunately being laid off. And you did post that on your story on Instagram. But, you know, a lot of the time we're not talking about our difficult days or things that, you know, give us pause and things like that. So I think it's a really good saying, like check in on your strong friends. And I have very many strong friends. Like, I need to be checking in on them too. I'm not just saying it's not a one-way street, but a lot of the time we just don't. I guess we're so caught up in our own worlds. And again, not from a selfish perspective, but we're so caught up in our own daily lives that we just don't think to, oh, maybe I should reach out to so-and-so and see how they're doing. Or maybe you do think about it, but ADHD and, 2 seconds later you're doing something else. So yeah. I think it's not only a slippery slope, as you say, but it's just difficult to sometimes manage just life, and having to think about reaching out. And if I don't reach out, are they going to feel some type of way? So I think that's where the low maintenance friend comes in, and appreciating the low maintenance friend. Like, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate my low maintenance friends, meaning that they know, I can not see you or speak to you for months, but the day that we do, we're going to catch up like it was nothing.
Like it's nothing.
And, those are the people that I appreciate in my life, because I don't feel like I have to put on for them. I don't feel like I have to go out of my way to let them know that they're loved and cared for, and like, I value you as a friend. Like, you just know that because you know the type of person that I am.
And I think that's important, that you have friends that understand you and the type of person that you are. It just goes back to alignment. And yeah, like you said, people just, I can't stress enough. I said it about 3 times already, but it's just like, people have lives, and it's okay. You know what I mean? So with all that we've talked about, what do you think makes a friendship healthy as an adult?
As an adult, I think first and foremost, a lot of the times, especially now at my age, and being that I work from home, so in previous years when I worked in the office, I made friends in the office. And, sometimes those people introduce you to other people, and that's kind of how you formulate your friend group. Now that I work from home and in a city that I've never lived in, although we're coming up on 4 years, but I've worked from home ever since we've, lived in Charlotte. So I will say it has been difficult for me to make new friends here, because I'm not in the office, I'm home all day. And I'm an introvert and a homebody. So, that's like the perfect storm for me to be a hermit. Don't shake your head at me.
Because I tell you all the time, you need to make some friends. Get out the house. You need to make some friends.
Well, that's the hard part. So you're extroverted, you're outgoing, and I love that about you. But that's just not my personality. So even when I am like out and about, I'm typically like observing. Like, I am watching people watching, and just observing the scenery and just what's going on, in whatever environment that I'm in. So I'm not like, making friends is not at the top of, I won't say it's not at the top of my list. It's not at the top of my mind. Like, I'm just, again, enjoying the moment. But I think as I think about like making friends now, it more so for me is probably about common interests. So for instance, I ride motorcycles. So, I'm, currently, and I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job.
You have. I'll give you that. Look, I'll give you.
I learned this, by the way.
I can't teach her nothing else, y'all. That's the one thing I'm going to give her.
Anywho, but no, I have been actively seeking, other female riders in my age group. So I'm almost 50.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and put that out there. If you are a woman in your 40s, even 50s, and you ride motorcycles and you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina, Georgia even area maybe.
Oh yeah, I'm in Atlanta all the time.
Yeah, so check this one out, and please, y'all, she needs some friends. Like, please.
But no, I actively sought out. That was actually one of my goals for this year, as I think, because I don't do resolutions. I think about goals. So one of my goals for this year was, one, to get out and ride more. And in order to do that, I was going to have to meet people, because one, I don't like to ride by myself. I can, but it's just not as enjoyable as if like I'm with a group of badass women and we pulling up on bikes and, it's just a thing. So, I really set out to like just make more friends. So I've been doing that, and I've met a couple of ladies who are awesome, by the way. If y'all see this, shout out to the Charlotte Lady Riders. But really at this age, I think it's more about, again, a common interest or, things that hobbies and things like that. So I'm hoping that these new, I'll call them acquaintances, because you don't call everybody your friend. But yeah, these new acquaintances, that they will turn into friends, and that we, can be lifelong friends until eternity.
Yeah.
So that for me, I think right now is kind of my MO when I'm looking for people to hang out with or spend time with, travel with, is going to be more along the vein of having a common interest.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something I briefly wanted to touch on before we wrap up that I thought about is I feel like, going back to what you said about outgrowing friendships and things like that, something that I've noticed is that, obviously I grew up in Atlanta. And something I've noticed is that people who grow up in their hometown and stay in their hometown, I tend to notice that, I don't know, as someone who, first of all, I moved around a lot, y'all, up until we were in Atlanta. So I feel like I really picked up on being able to make new friends because of the fact that
I really always didn't. The new girl.
Yeah. And when we got to Charlotte, it was just like, oh, I did have a bit of a challenge of, thinking about, oh, should I go to this event by myself and things like that? But, making friends wasn't something that was difficult for me ever.
Right.
But I did notice that, like, I, speak to some of those people that's back in Atlanta and things like that I ended up growing up with. And it feels like I'm talking to their high school self. Like, it just doesn't seem like there has been a lot of growth or just different experiences, I'll say, for some people. And I just feel like, especially at this age, if you have the opportunity to move out of your hometown, do it.
At any age. It's not even, it's very interesting that you say that, because as you were describing that, I'm thinking about like people that I grew up with that still live, back in Durham, North Carolina, because that's where I spent the majority of my pre-college years. I can identify with that.
Yeah,
I certainly can. And it's almost like it's become cliquish, if you will. And I moved away. I mean, I went to college an hour away. I went to North Carolina A&T. Go Aggies. And, that was only an hour away. However, like I said, I immediately moved after graduation to Orlando, Florida. So while I went back home, I think twice, meaning moved back home, but I have, like you said, we've been all over Orlando. We've been in Maryland. We've been in Georgia. So we have moved up and down the East Coast, for the last 26 years. And I can certainly identify with what you just said, how, a lot of those people that you grew up with,
they just seem the same. Like, there hasn't been much change that's happened over the years.
I never thought of it that way. So
yeah. I've noticed that, because even when I just have conversations with guys that now all of a sudden want to shoot a shot, talk some game, it's like, how old are we now? We're mid-20s and you shooting your shot like you 17 again, or like you're, still in high school. And even not even from like a dating perspective, but even some of the, like you said, just outgrowing friends and things like that. I've just noticed that a lot of, those people tend to have some of the same ideologies, and like, they just don't really grow or develop as a person. And I feel like, and I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm better than anybody or anything like that. It's just like, I feel like you get certain experiences when you move out of your hometown that really just alter you as a person, for the better and sometimes for worse.
Sure.
But I just think that, there's a lot of personal development that happens when you move outside of your hometown.
I feel like that's an episode all by itself.
And maybe we can make it one. Maybe we could talk about that.
Seriously. I mean, like, I really kind of want to explore that a little bit. And I'm not sure that we have the time to do it today, but that's an awesome thought. And yeah, the wheels are turning for me. So
okay, we can ponder that and see about doing a full episode about that another time.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Any final thoughts as we wrap up today's episode?
Really just that, I'm always open to new friendships, right? And I'm going to use the word friendship loosely here. And don't take that, take it with a grain of salt is what I'm saying. So, I'm always open to meeting people and, gaining perspectives about different people and things like that. I will say, for me, being the introvert that I am, it's not always easy making new friends. And, I used to be really shy when I was younger, but I don't think I'm as shy now. I'm just more reserved, if you will. It's difficult because I'm not the person that's going to walk up to you and introduce myself.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I don't want to meet you, but that's just, there's an anxiety there for me, just introducing myself. Hey, my name is, so-and-so. And what do you say after that? I don't know. But yeah, I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy new and different perspectives and things like that. So if you ever see me out in the streets, please introduce yourself. People say I'm standoffish, but I'm really not. I'm the nicest person you want to know until I'm not.
Okay. Well, as someone who is extroverted and who isn't afraid to strike up a conversation, I will say that my tip would be when you're going up to somebody, find something to compliment them on.
And I was going to say, when you and I have been out and about, that's how I noticed that that's what you do. Yeah. And I think that,
it's an easy conversation starter.
Yeah. Because you're always like, oh, I love your whatever, your dress or your earrings or whatever. And it's not that I don't notice those things. I just don't think to say it. I don't know, but okay. Yeah. Maybe we should have a tips and tricks of how to make friends and how to introduce yourself and how to, just be more, I don't know. I don't want to say extroverted, but just, I don't know.
Extroverted. Yeah. Open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can do that. But if y'all have any tips and tricks for this introvert,
listen,
help a girl out.
I need some help over here. And I mean, I don't, we're kind of, laughing and joking about it. But I mean, it's a real thing for me to have an anxiety about
social anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, again, if you see me out and about, I promise I'm the nicest person. I love meeting people, but I'm just not the one that's going to walk over and say, hi, my name is.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, this was a good one. Any final thoughts for you? I feel like I've learned a little bit more about you during this conversation. And with your, I guess at your age, how you kind of navigate those friendships. I'm always open to listening and learning. So I feel like I learned a little bit.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't have all the answers when it comes to juggling multiple friendships as an extrovert. But again, I just think it's important to have people that understand you and just that, life is life. And, being a low maintenance friend is nice.
Chef's kiss.
And I love having low maintenance friendships. Because like you said, you can go however long without talking to them. And when you guys see each other or talk again, it's like nothing ever separated you two. It's like you said,
no time has passed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed this conversation. I'm always open I have enough friends. I can't even lie to y'all, but I'm always open. I will say, I don't have no homeboys. Every guy that I've tried to be friends with, they be wanting to talk to me. I want some homeboys. Okay.
I feel like that's another conversation, male platonic friends. Mm-hmm. I think we should get into that one.
Okay. We can earmark that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need some homeboys because when I'm going through my dating tropes and things like that, I want to be able to call a homeboy and be like, am I tripping? I can really value when a man can give you a man's perspective.
Yeah.
And really give it to you raw to be like, listen, this is how a man thinks.
Right.
I don't have nobody in my life like that. So I am accepting homeboy applications. Thank you. But yeah, I enjoyed today's conversation.
Okay.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the MD, M as in mother, D as in daughter mixtape. And you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify at the Mother Daughter Mixtape.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching this episode, and we will catch you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.